The movie starts, and we see the year 1952. A church called St. Carta Abbey in Romania is shown. Inside, two nuns are walking together, holding a mysterious key. They make their way to a door marked with the name Finite Hagdio. One of the nuns stops and asks quietly, "Are we sure what we are about to do is the right thing?" The other nun replies firmly, "There is no other way." And with that, she walks through the door alone, carrying a lantern, searching for a sacred relic. The moment she steps inside, a terrifying sound fills the air. Something evil is in there. A dark and powerful demonic force carves strange marks and deep cuts all over her body. Covered in blood, the wounded nun hands the key back to the other sister and warns her, "This demon needs a body to escape through. And now it is going to come after you." Before she can say another word, something drags her violently into the darkness. The second nun, now holding the key, is overwhelmed with terror. She climbs to the church window and hangs herself. The truth is, the demon made her do it. The next morning, a young man named Frenchie arrives at the Abbey as he always does, delivering vegetables. But when he looks up, he sees the body of that same nun hanging from the window of the church. The scene then shifts to Vatican City, where Father Burke is summoned to the main office of the church. Word has reached them that a nun in a mountain abbey in Romania has taken her own life. They need Father Burke to go there and find out why, because suicide is considered a grave sin in this faith. If word spreads, people may lose their trust in God. Father Burke is given a ticket, along with the names and addresses of people he will need to meet on his journey. The story then moves to London, where we meet a young woman named Irene. She is training to become a sister, but her vows are not yet complete. She has not yet fully given herself to God. Father Burke arrives to meet Irene and explains everything that has happened. He tells her she has been requested because she knows the area, but Irene has never been to Romania at all. Still, the two of them travel together and meet Frenchie, the young man who discovered the hanging nun. He takes them to the exact spot where she was found. When they go inside, they find the nun's body placed on the ground, exactly as Frenchie had left her. Then, in the dead woman's hand, they find the same key that the first nun had passed along before being dragged away. No one understands what the key opens or where it belongs. The deceased nun is buried with full respect and honor. The three of them then walk toward the abbey itself, and when they arrive, they notice something deeply unsettling. The blood on the ground outside is still fresh, even though the nun has been dead for nearly a month. The moment they step through the abbey doors, a heavy silence wraps around them. Then Irene spots an elderly nun sitting alone, completely still. After introductions, they learn she is the Mother Superior of the Abbey. She looks at Irene coldly and says, "You have not taken your vows yet." Frenchie speaks up and tells her that one of her nuns was found hanging outside. Before he can say anything more, the Mother Superior dismisses him, refusing to hear a single word. She then suggests Father Burke leave as well, insisting that everything in the abbey is perfectly fine. But how could everything be fine when a nun was found dead outside? Father Burke wants answers, but the Mother Superior simply says it is time for the nuns to pray. The gates of the abbey are about to close, and silence will be observed all night. She tells them there is a place outside the abbey where they can stay for the night, and all their questions will be answered in the morning. Out of respect, the two of them comply and leave. Frenchie, with no reason to stay, heads home. But on his way back, Frenchie sees a nun walking ahead of him carrying the same noose in her hand. She seems to be beckoning him toward her. He assumes she is a lost nun wandering from the abbey. He follows her. As he walks further, he realizes he has arrived at the cemetery. And then, the very nun he was following suddenly appears hanging from a tree right in front of him and drops onto him. This is no nun. This is the demon, the same evil force that dragged the first nun into the darkness and drove the second one to hang herself. It is now right in front of Frenchie. He barely manages to escape with his life. Inside the castle nearby, Father Burke is telling Irene about something that happened to him during the war in France. He had been sent to see a young boy who was experiencing terrible visions, exactly the same kind of visions that Irene has been seeing. When Father Burke arrived, the boy was bound and restrained. A violent demonic presence had taken hold of him. Father Burke attempted to drive it out, but the demon was so enraged that it killed the boy from the inside before Father Burke could finish. This moment has haunted him ever since. That same night, while both of them are sleeping, Father Burke suddenly wakes up. He feels as though someone is calling him. He goes to check on Irene, and on his way, he sees the same boy from his story running through the dark corridors of the castle. Father Burke chases him. The boy keeps drawing him further and further in, until Father Burke ends up in the same cemetery where Frenchie had been. The boy keeps trying to frighten him. Father Burke just wants to know who this child is and whether he is lost. Then a snake crawls out of the boy's mouth and attacks Father Burke, throwing him into a pre-dug grave and trapping him inside. And this is not just any grave. This is Father Burke's own grave, already prepared and waiting for him. A bell on the grave begins ringing. The sound wakes Irene. She decides to investigate the church on her own. Inside, she sees the shadow of the same demon that took the lives of both nuns. When she looks into a mirror, the demon appears behind her. She spins around, but it is gone. Then it comes crashing back through the mirror, shattering it completely. Irene runs outside in fear. Hearing a bell ringing from the cemetery, she runs toward it. But when she arrives, all the bells on every single grave begin ringing at once, leaving her confused about which one is real. Using her gift of spiritual sight, Irene locates the right grave and begins digging frantically to free Father Burke. But while she digs, the demon is inside the grave, pressing Father Burke's head deeper into the earth, trying to suffocate him. Irene pulls him out just in time. And inside that same grave, they find a collection of old books. These books may hold the answers they have been searching for. The next day when they go to the Abbey, they learn that only women are allowed inside. So Father Burke gives Irene the key and sends her in alone. Inside, she finds a nun sitting in silent prayer before a statue of Jesus. She is told that this is a sacred rule of the Abbey. The nuns here take turns praying without interruption, day and night. They must never stop, because their unceasing prayer is the only thing keeping the darkness sealed. One of the nuns begins telling Irene the history of the Abbey. She explains that long ago, this abbey was originally a castle built by the Duke of St. Carta. He practiced dark rituals and wrote spells to summon evil forces from hell, because he wanted to bring demonic power into this world. Hell accepted his invitation and allowed him to open a gateway, and through that gateway, a terrifying and powerful demon began to emerge. But before it could fully cross over, the church stormed the castle and cut off the Duke's head. The people there used a sacred relic, the blood of Jesus Christ, to pour into that gateway and seal it shut forever. The church then took over the castle and transformed it into an abbey. Ever since that day, the nuns have prayed without ceasing to keep the demon contained. But during wartime, bombs shook the abbey so violently that the gateway cracked open again, and the demon slipped back into this world. During this conversation, something becomes terrifyingly clear. The Mother Superior who spoke to them the previous day was not the real Mother Superior. She was the demon itself, wearing the face of a nun, walking among them to take control of the Abbey from within. The nun telling Irene all of this warns her that the demon disguises itself as one of them and moves freely among the sisters, waiting for the right moment to overpower someone. Meanwhile, Father Burke is out searching for the door that the key fits. He finds a code that points him toward the right location. Frenchie had mentioned that the nuns always used a particular door to collect deliveries without needing to leave the castle. When Father Burke reaches that door, the demon blocks his way. Just as it is about to attack him, Frenchie arrives and pulls him to safety. Back at the Abbey, when Irene goes to answer a knock at the door, all the dead nuns she had seen before suddenly disappear. They were never real. The demon had been playing with her mind all along. Then one of the dead nuns reawakens and attacks Father Burke. He holds out his crucifix and begins reciting prayers to drive the evil out. But instead of leaving the body, the nun bursts into flames. As she lunges forward to attack, Frenchie shoots her with his gun and brings her down. Irene then reveals something important. The nun who appeared to take her own life at the very beginning did not die by suicide at all. It was a sacrifice. She gave her life willingly to warn them and pass along the key. The three of them now know the full truth. The gateway is in the underground vault beneath the Abbey. To seal it again, they need the sacred relic, the same blood of Jesus Christ that was used to close it centuries ago. Irene makes a solemn decision. She takes her vows right then and there, because she refuses to let more innocent people die the way those nuns did. They descend into the vault and stand before the same door shown at the very beginning of this story. The key opens it. Inside, they find the holy relic, a vial containing the sacred blood of Jesus Christ. Father Burke places it around Irene's neck as a locket, and all three of them step into the underground passage. But the moment they enter, they lose each other in the darkness and become separated. Irene is left alone with the demon hunting her from behind. She turns to look and is suddenly grabbed and pulled hard by another figure. It turns out to be a nun from the Abbey, pulling her to safety. When they get back inside the church, Irene sees that the dark force has already killed one of the nuns in a brutal way. The remaining nuns gather around Irene and urge her to pray with them, keeping their focus on God. They lock all the doors to stop the demon from entering. But the demon crashes through anyway and hurls every single nun into the air at once. All of them are killed in an instant. Now Irene is the only one left to pray. She kneels down and throws herself into prayer. But the demon creeps up behind her and begins carving marks and cuts into her back, exactly the same wounds it inflicted on the first nun at the very beginning. In another part of the vault, Frenchie wanders into a room filled with figures dressed exactly like Irene. Dozens of them, all wearing the same clothes. He steps into the middle of them, and they all silently disappear. At the same time, Father Burke is surrounded by rows of nuns standing in a long line, all staring at him and closing in slowly. He begins reciting his prayers and spreads holy fire around him. Every one of the dark nuns stops dead in their tracks. Irene reaches the area where the demon has drawn its dark star, its mark of power. Frenchie sees her trapped inside it and races to help, but the demon has already entered Irene. She raises the gun and is about to shoot Frenchie. With quick thinking, Frenchie snatches the holy locket, opens it, and smears the sacred blood directly onto Irene's face. The demon rips itself out of Irene and seizes Frenchie instead. The boy who had been terrorizing Father Burke all this time now jumps directly onto him. The snake from the boy's mouth wraps around Father Burke's throat and bites into his eye. Irene rushes forward to help, but the demon picks her up and throws her into the water below. The demon follows her in, dragging her down and trying to drown her. Then Irene notices that the sacred blood in her locket is gone. She realizes she already did what needed to be done. She had taken the holy blood into her own mouth before entering the water. Now, face to face with the demon, she spits the sacred blood directly onto its face. Its entire face begins to melt and collapse. The blood spreads through the water, flowing down into the gateway that lies directly beneath them. The demon is pulled violently downward through the water into the gate of hell, and the gateway slams shut completely, sealed forever. Frenchie then pulls Irene out of the water, saving her life. But as they leave the Abbey, something chilling is noticed on Frenchie's neck. The mark of an inverted cross. The demon did not fully leave. It latched onto Frenchie before going down. 20 years later, the consequences of that moment are shown. Frenchie's condition has severely deteriorated, and we see that Ed Warren and Lorraine Warren are now working on his very case. This is what Ed and Lorraine Warren do. They spend their lives hunting down and battling forces exactly like this one. At the same location, we also see a woman named Carolyn, the same woman who appears in The Conjuring Part 1, because her home is being tormented by the very same kind of darkness, and she has come to speak with Ed and Lorraine for help. And with that, this terrifying story comes to an end. If you want to watch more movie stories explained just like this, comment next part in the box below and we will bring it to you. Do not forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.